Today we go over an update of the new Star Wars trilogy by writer and director Rian Johnson. This is Mike Zero here. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, as you all know, ever since the release of The Last Jedi, there's been a lot of backlash going against it based on decisions made by Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy. And since then, Rian Johnson has been explaining himself several times in numerous different interviews and podcasts, etc., and explaining all these different scenes. Now, a couple months ago, I believe it was in November, is when we learned that Rian Johnson will be the one in charge of this new Star Wars trilogy, and that Kathleen Kennedy is giving him full creative control with this new set of Star Wars films that are a total of 3 of them. Now, he's not quite sure if he will be writing, or should I say directing all of them, but he will be writing all 3 of them. Now, in case you guys didn't know, Rian Johnson has been getting involved in a lot of interviews and podcasts this past week, and we've been learning a whole lot more about Johnson, not only as a person, but the ways of filmmaking and how he sees film. And looking at the new Star Wars trilogy, we do have one update with it all, is that Rian Johnson will be making big, bold, and risk-taking decisions, just how he did with Star Wars The Last Jedi, in his new Star Wars trilogy. So the big question of all here is, should we worry about that? Is this a good or a bad thing? Looking at the criticism that The Last Jedi received, could we see a similar thing happen with the new Star Wars trilogy? Now, one could definitely debate and argue that with The Last Jedi, you had legacy characters thrown in there, such as Luke, Leia, you name it, and all of these different characters, such as even Chewbacca. Now, going into this new Star Wars trilogy, there really aren't any expectations because we really have no clue as to where Rian Johnson is going with these new set of Star Wars movies. Also, these new set of Star Wars films won't include any familiar characters that we know of from either Star Wars Legends or even the Star Wars canon under Disney. So the fact that he will be taking big, bold decisions, big risk-taking decisions as well with this new Star Wars trilogy, what could we possibly see that expands the Star Wars universe? Now, we've heard several rumors before in the past. I'm not quite sure how valid they really are, and we have gone over this before many times, is that apparently Rian Johnson will be taking us to a new Star Wars galaxy next to the other galaxy that we actually are all very much familiar with in the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, and even in the sequel trilogy, all the comics out there, you name it. So, looking at this new trilogy, we really have no clue as to exactly what Rian Johnson will be doing, other than the fact that he aims at really recapturing the magic of the original trilogy and redeveloping a character that will be as iconic as the Jedi Master Luke Skywalker in George Lucas's original Star Wars, A New Hope. Now, looking at everything that's happening now with the Star Wars franchise, we have Solo: A Star Wars Story coming out next week, we have Episode 9 releasing at the very end of 2019, and Star Wars 2020 at the very end of 2020, which is reportedly the Kenobi movie. So there's a lot of projects in the works. We don't only have the Rian Johnson trilogy that is actually past Episode 9 and the Kenobi film. There's a lot more in the works, such as TV series, live action, and both animated, and even the set of Star Wars films under the creation of the creators from the Game of Thrones series on HBO. Now, looking at everything here, guys, how do you feel specifically about Rian Johnson doing all of these big, bold decisions and risk-taking decisions that he did with The Last Jedi in his new trilogy? Let me know what you think about that. Is this a good or a bad thing? Does it even matter? Drop a comment, let me know. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.